Somewhere right now on a factory floor in China, a machine is being built that will never run Windows, and nobody at Microsoft signed off on it. Sit with that for a second, because if you have ever bought a laptop in your life, you were never actually given a choice about the operating system underneath your fingers. You were simply handed a default. And for 30 straight years, that default was Windows. No negotiation, no alternative on the shelf, no second sticker on the box. That is over. Not fading, not softening, over. And the company that just ended it is not some scrappy Linux startup nobody has heard of. It is Lenovo, the single largest personal computer manufacturer on planet Earth. The company that ships more laptops in a single quarter than most countries have citizens. And they have quietly built a version of the future where Windows is not the foundation your computer stands on. It is an optional upgrade you can decline at checkout. Right now, today, on Lenovo's own website in the United States and Canada, you can pull up the exact same ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Same processor, same memory, same display panel, same aluminum shell. And the only difference between the two listings is the operating system, and the Linux version is sitting there between $140 and $211 cheaper. Not a coupon, not a limited time promotion that vanishes at midnight. A structural permanent built into the pricing model gap, and that number is not random. That number is Lenovo finally letting you see something the entire PC industry has hidden from customers since the 1990s, which is exactly how much Windows costs to put on a machine before a single component gets soldered or a single box gets sealed. For 3 decades, that number lived in confidential contracts you were never allowed to read. Now it is sitting on a public product page in plain daylight, and once you understand why it is there, you will never look at a laptop price tag the same way again. So let's go back, because to understand how staggering this moment actually is, you need to understand the machine that made it possible, and it starts with a number that should genuinely make you angry once you hear it. Every single time Lenovo shipped a Windows laptop out of a factory, anywhere in the world, they wrote Microsoft a check. Industry licensing data has placed that per unit OEM fee somewhere between $40 and $80 depending on the tier of machine and the volume Lenovo negotiated, and on a $400 laptop, the price point where an enormous share of the entire global market actually lives, that single license fee was quietly consuming 10 to 20% of the total retail price before Lenovo covered the cost of a single chip, a single hinge, a single hour of assembly labor, or booked 1 cent of profit. That was the floor. That was the starting tax on every machine before anything else got built. And then Windows 11 arrived in late 2021, and the floor got dramatically more expensive. Not because the hardware inside these laptops changed, but because Microsoft decided it should. Suddenly, a security chip called TPM 2.0 was mandatory, adding cost to a component that had never been required before. Suddenly, an entire tier of perfectly capable, perfectly reliable processors were blacklisted from running the new operating system at all, forcing manufacturers to source pricier chips just to stay compliant with a list, Microsoft wrote unilaterally. Suddenly, 4 gigabytes of memory, which had powered everyday computing for millions of people for years, was effectively outlawed, pushing 8 gigabytes into becoming the new mandatory minimum. Microsoft wrote every single one of those rules. Lenovo paid every single one of those bills. And underneath all of it sat something even more insulting if you really think about it, the bloatware economy, where Microsoft required manufacturers to pre-install trial software, antivirus prompts, subscription nags, promotional junk cluttering a brand new machine from the very first boot. Or in the companies paying for that shelf space paid Microsoft directly, not Lenovo. Lenovo built the laptop. Lenovo shipped the laptop. Lenovo answered the phone when a furious customer called in because they had accidentally triggered a subscription they never wanted or could not close a pop-up crowding their fresh desktop. Lenovo's support agents took that call, and Lenovo paid that agent's salary while the money for the software cluttering the screen flowed somewhere else entirely. For years, this was simply how the relationship worked, and it worked because there was no alternative sitting on the table. There was nowhere else to go. And then the return data started arriving, and it did not whisper, it screamed. When Microsoft decided to end support for Windows 10, the fallout was almost unfathomable in scale. An estimated 400 million personal computers around the world suddenly found themselves locked out of Windows 11 entirely, incompatible, not because they were broken, not because they were slow, not because they had failed in any functional sense, but because Microsoft had drawn an arbitrary hardware line and told 400 million households their machine no longer qualified. Canalys, one of the most respected research firms tracking this industry, estimated that roughly 240 million of those devices were non-compliant and staring down obsolescence. The firm did not mince words about what that meant. Warning, it could trigger a genuinely catastrophic wave of electronic waste. mountains of laptops that still worked perfectly well being pushed toward landfills because a software company decided their processor generation was no longer welcome. Every single one of those 240 million machines was sitting in someone's home, on someone's desk, in someone's backpack, and every single one of them represented a customer who was about to be told to spend hundreds of dollars replacing something that was not actually broken. That is the moment Lenovo's internal numbers stopped being theoretical and started becoming impossible to ignore, because quietly, without a press conference, without a splashy announcement, Lenovo ran a pilot program selling laptops pre-installed with Ubuntu and Fedora through their direct sales channels, watching exactly what happened when real customers got their hands on real Linux machines instead of Windows machines. And the results did not just support the theory that Linux could work for mainstream users, they detonated every remaining argument for keeping Windows as the unquestioned default. Return rates fell, and they did not fall by a rounding error, they fell dramatically. Support call volume dropped sharply enough that it showed up clearly in the operational data. Customer satisfaction scores on the identical physical hardware, same chip, same memory, same screen, same everything except the operating system, consistently came back higher on the Linux machines than the Windows ones. Think about what that actually means. Nothing about the hardware changed. The only variable that moved was the software running on top of it, and Linux won by a margin wide enough that people inside Lenovo's own product planning teams were reportedly caught off guard by how decisively it won. This is not a rumor floating around a Linux enthusiast forum somewhere. This is a global manufacturer's own operational data telling them, in the coldest and most convincing language a business ever listens to, the language of dollars saved and complaints avoided, that the thing they had always treated as a necessary cost of doing business was in fact optional, and increasingly a liability. So stay with me here, because what happened next is where this stops being a pricing footnote and becomes something much bigger, something that reaches into engineering labs, retail floors, corporate boardrooms, and eventually your own next laptop purchase. Lenovo did not treat this discovery as a side project to quietly manage. They went and built a real partnership with Fedora, one of the most respected and technically serious Linux distributions in the entire open source world, and the tone of that partnership tells you everything about how seriously Lenovo was taking this shift. Engineers inside Lenovo have spoken about active internal work to bring features to Linux that had historically been reserved exclusively for Windows configurations, treating the platform not as an afterthought bolted onto the side of the product line, but as a first-class citizen deserving the same polish, the same attention, the same engineering investment. And people close to the Fedora side of that collaboration have described Lenovo as unusually respectful of the open source, community-driven culture that defines projects like Fedora, which is not a small thing because plenty of large corporations have approached open source communities with a transactional, extractive posture and burned the relationship within months. This one held, and it held because it mattered to both sides. Here is why that partnership is not just a symbolic handshake for a press release. The single biggest, most legitimate criticism of Linux on consumer hardware for literally decades has been driver support, firmware reliability, and the fear that your wireless card or your trackpad might simply not work the way it is supposed to, unless you were comfortable typing commands into a terminal window to fix it yourself. When a manufacturer the size of Lenovo starts contributing device drivers directly into the Linux kernel and certifying specific distributions across specific hardware lines, that entire barrier, the one thing that kept Linux confined to hobbyists and developers for a generation, simply stops existing on that certified hardware. You open the laptop, it works. The wireless connects, it works. The firmware updates arrive through the same standard channel Windows users are used to, no command line required. No forum searching at midnight trying to figure out why your speakers stopped working after an update. That barrier is not lowered here. On Lenovo's certified machines, it is structurally gone, and once that barrier disappears, everything downstream of it becomes possible, in a way it simply was not before. Now, let's talk about something the tech press mentions in passing, but almost never sits with long enough to feel the actual weight of, because there is a human and environmental cost buried inside this story that deserves more than a footnote. Producing a single laptop can account for somewhere between 60 and 90% of that device's entire lifetime greenhouse gas emissions, which means the moment a functional laptop gets pushed into a landfill years before its natural end of life, that is not a neutral event. That is an environmental cost paid in advance for a hardware refresh nobody actually needed. A 10-year-old ThinkPad that Windows 11 refuses to acknowledge runs modern Ubuntu smoothly, securely, and at full capability for the tasks the overwhelming majority of people actually use a computer for every single day: browsing, email, documents, video calls. That machine is not obsolete. It has been declared obsolete. And there is a meaningful difference between those two things. Critics inside and outside the industry have openly described Microsoft's handling of the Windows 10 end-of-life timeline as a form of manufactured obsolescence, engineered to accelerate the sales cycle for Copilot Plus PCs and Windows 11 machines. And when you actually lay the timeline out, the hardware mandates, the support cutoff date, the fact that Microsoft's own extended security update program for home users only stretches coverage to October of 2026 with no renewal option. After that, the pattern becomes hard to unsee. That is not a solution to the obsolescence problem. That is a 12-month postponement of the exact same deadline. And the people least equipped to absorb the cost of that deadline are almost never the people writing about it from a position of comfort. They are schools running computer labs on tight budgets. They are public libraries serving entire communities on aging hardware. They are households depending on secondhand machines because a new laptop simply is not in the monthly budget. Linux carries no such expiration date baked into its philosophy. A distribution running smoothly on your hardware today keeps receiving security patches and updates on that same hardware indefinitely, without a manufacturer arbitrarily deciding your processor generation has aged out of eligibility. And that is not a minor technical footnote. That is a fundamentally different answer to a question that matters enormously. Who actually owns the device sitting on your desk? You or the company that wrote the software running on top of it? Now here is where the story stops being about one company's pricing strategy and becomes something that deserves to be called a genuine structural realignment of an entire industry, because Lenovo was never moving alone, and the pattern only becomes visible once you stop looking at any single manufacturer in isolation and start looking at the whole board at once. At CES in January of 2026, Lenovo did something that went far beyond a footnote buried in an enterprise product catalog. They publicly committed to shipping a major consumer gaming handheld with Linux as the officially supported, marketed, headline operating system. Not hidden, not an obscure configuration option, 3 menus deep, front and center on the box. When the largest PC manufacturer on the planet puts Linux on the front of a flagship product with a release date attached, that is not an experiment anymore. That is a strategic decision made at the very top of the organization, informed by real sales figures, real return rates, and real satisfaction data pulled from their own existing Linux product line. And here's the part that explains not just what is happening, but why it is happening on this particular timeline right now, together. If a single manufacturer breaks away from Windows on its own, Microsoft still holds enormous leverage over that company. Licensing terms can shift, co-marketing dollars can quietly evaporate, preferential treatment can flow toward competitors who stay loyal to the Windows ecosystem, and historically, these tools have worked exactly as intended against a lone defector. But that entire calculus collapses the instant multiple major manufacturers move within the same compressed window of time, because Microsoft cannot financially punish the entire OEM channel without destroying the very distribution network that has kept Windows on nearly every non-Apple computer sold anywhere on the planet for 4 decades. The mechanism that built the monopoly becomes the exact mechanism that ends it, the moment enough participants inside that mechanism decide to move together. Dell has been positioning newer business class machines specifically toward professionals who want serious Linux compatibility paired with enterprise-grade build quality, marketing that compatibility front and center rather than burying it in a technical spec sheet nobody reads. Asus has been steadily expanding Linux hardware certification across its consumer lineup, showing up repeatedly in coverage aimed squarely at people asking what to do now that Windows 10 support has ended, which tells you exactly which customer conversation Asus is positioning itself to capture. HP has been growing its own Linux workstation offerings in parallel. None of these companies needed a phone call from Lenovo to know this shift was coming. They all have access to the same category of internal data, their own return rates, their own support call logs, their own satisfaction surveys. And the question was never whether that data existed. The question was always who would be willing to act on it first, loudly enough, publicly enough, that the rest of the industry no longer had to move quietly. Now push this story one level deeper into the part of Microsoft's business that actually generates the profit that matters most to their bottom line, because the consumer laptop market produces license fees, but the real financial engine sits inside the enterprise stack. The Active Directory subscriptions, the Microsoft 365 seat licenses, the Azure integration agreements, and that is exactly where this shift starts to become genuinely dangerous for Microsoft's long-term position. When an IT decision maker looks at the exact same ThinkPad hardware their organization already trusts, running Linux, delivering a lower total cost of ownership, fewer support tickets, fewer returns, and none of the forced update cycles or expanding AI feature integrations that raise real data governance concerns inside regulated industries. The conversation about piloting Linux across even a portion of the workforce stops being a fringe idea and starts becoming a legitimate line item in a budget review. An organization running 10,000 Windows seats is paying Microsoft millions of dollars every single year purely for the privilege of that operating system layer. I'll determine that number compounds upward every time Microsoft adjusts its enterprise pricing. And here's the quiet detail that makes all of this financially survivable for these companies to even attempt. The employees whose entire workday consists of a browser, email, a video call, and a shared document. OS, which describes the overwhelming majority of office workers walking into buildings every single morning, do not actually require Windows to perform a single one of those tasks. Microsoft's own agreements with hardware manufacturers have always been non-exclusive, legally allowing any OEM to ship a different operating system. An artifact that has technically existed on paper for years, while functionally changing almost nothing, until now, when it is finally being exercised at a scale large enough to move the entire market rather than simply create a niche offering for technically sophisticated buyers. And underneath all of it sits the deeper shift that made this entire moment possible in the first place. Quietly, patiently, over the better part of a decade, the working world migrated into the browser. Email, documents, spreadsheets, video calls, project management, design tools, virtually everything the average person touches during a workday now runs inside a browser tab. And the operating system sitting underneath that browser has become functionally invisible for an enormous share of daily computing life. You can run Office through a browser on a Linux machine, pay for the subscription, and never hand over a Windows license fee or your personal data to Windows telemetry in the process. Microsoft, through its own relentless push toward browser-based, subscription-driven software, quietly built the very infrastructure that made its own flagship operating system optional for millions of the people who use its other products every single day. That is the kind of strategic miscalculation that takes years to fully reveal itself and becomes nearly impossible to walk back once the market has absorbed it as the new baseline expectation. And for the small remaining slice of tasks that genuinely require a Windows-only application, the compatibility tools like Wine and Proton now run a remarkably wide range of Windows software directly on Linux. No dual boot required, no clunky virtual machine eating half your system resources in the background. The application gap, the very last serious argument for why an everyday user could not realistically leave Windows behind, has narrowed to the point where it can no longer anchor a platform monopoly on its own. Not against financial evidence this convincing, arriving from this many major manufacturers at the exact same moment. Microsoft's response, when it became clear what Lenovo and others were quietly building, followed a familiar and predictable playbook. Licensing discounts appeared, quiet conversations about code. Marketing fund allocations resurfaced. The same financial levers that had reliably pulled OEM partners back into line for decades were pulled again. But those levers were engineered for an era in which Windows was the only credible option on the table for a mainstream consumer. And that era is closing. The moment your leverage depends entirely on the other side having nowhere else to go, you lose that leverage the instant a credible alternative proves itself in real-world numbers at real-world scale, and that alternative has now proven itself, repeatedly, working across multiple manufacturers, in exactly the kind of cold operational data that boardrooms cannot argue their way around. So picture this, because it is not a hypothetical unfolding somewhere off in the distant future. It is already beginning right now in 2026. Inside retail environments, hundreds of millions of people walk into every single week. Someone needs a new laptop, maybe because their old Windows 10 machine was just told it no longer qualifies for security updates, maybe because a forced Windows update corrupted a file they needed for work, maybe because they are simply exhausted by a machine that fights them every time they turn it on. And for the first time in 30 years of personal computing, they see two versions of the same laptop sitting side by side. Same brand, same model, same processor, same memory, same screen. One running Windows, one running Linux, and the Linux version costs noticeably less. That single moment, a visible, real, mainstream choice sitting on a shelf instead of buried 3 menus deep on a niche product page for people who already knew to go looking for it, is the actual mechanism through which a 30-year platform monopoly starts to unwind, not through a courtroom, not through a regulatory ruling handed down from above, through a default quietly changing on a product page, in full view of a customer who has never once in their life stopped to think there was ever a choice to make. Windows dominance was never built because it was universally agreed to be the best possible product available. It was built because it was the only product that arrived pre-installed on the machine you were handed. And that single mechanism, the default, is what protected the monopoly for 3 decades. The defaults are changing right now in front of you, and when the largest personal computer manufacturer on the planet changes its default, the rest of the market does not politely wait around to see what happens next. It follows. The only real question left standing is not whether this shift is happening. That question has already been answered by the numbers themselves. The only question left is how quickly the remaining leverage Microsoft still holds runs out of road. And based on everything Lenovo, Dell, Asus, and HP are actively building into their product lines and their engineering roadmaps right now, that point is far closer than most people watching this currently realize.